Madam President, it's a pleasure to see you in that chair. And once again, I congratulate you and I congratulate us with an excellent new president. May I also pay my compliments to my colleague Michele Nicoletti for the presentation of his resolution that calls for a new Council of Europe summit to preserve and further strengthen the unique pan-European project that the Council of Europe is. In the recommendation and the report that I have the honor to present to this Assembly, I fully support a fourth summit of heads and states of government with full participation of this Assembly. And I propose to this Assembly to call on the Committee of Ministers and the Secretary General of the Council of Europe to add to the agenda of this upcoming summit the unique Council of Europe convention-based system and its future, as this convention-based system has substantially helped to improve the functioning of democratic institutions in Europe, to develop the rule of law throughout Europe, and to protect and to promote the right of all European citizens and inhabitants in the past 7 decades, something we could and should be really proud of. Madam President, from the beginning in 1994, the raison d'etre of the Council of Europe was, I quote, to achieve greater unity between its members for the purpose of safeguarding and realizing the ideals and principles which are their common heritage and facilitating their economic and social progress. So it is stated in our statute, thereby focusing on the 3 major pillars of human rights, rule of law and democracy. Madam President, to that end, the statute established the principle of intergovernmental cooperation, which has since then been central to the Council of Europe's operations. This cooperation between member states focuses on the development of common standards in conventions and their effective implementation in member states in order to ensure continuity in the achievement of the objectives set out in our statute. The more than 200 conventions which have been produced since 1994 now are the main source of the Council of Europe acquis. They involve human rights, social rights, minority rights, protecting of women and children. They counter the financing of terrorism, money laundering, human trafficking. They improve the legal structures of our member states, deal with match fixing and doping in sports. They forbid torture and disgrading treatment and organ trafficking. They regulate child adoption and counter threat to public health and ensure data protection. These conventions, I am convinced, have a direct impact on the lives of European citizens and the legal framework of our member states. This unique common heritage, which effectively and substantially contributed to the real de facto uniting of our continent, must be recognized, asserted, defended, and as necessary, further developed to the benefit of all European citizens and inhabitants and others to whom these conventions are or could be applied. Madam President, any initiative to draft a new treaty has to be formally approved by the Committee of Ministers, the Council of Europe's executive organ. The Committee of Ministers may ask the Parliamentary Assembly for an opinion on any draft treaty, and since 1998 it does consult the Assembly on all draft treaties. The statute states that conventions and agreements shall be considered by the Committee of Ministers on recommendation of this Assembly or on the Committee's own initiative. Very many of these treaties have been drawn up at the instigation of the Assembly, therefore often and rightfully referred to as the Council of Europe's political engine. This Assembly and the Committee of Ministers therefore bear, together with the Member States, the responsibility for the creation, protection, implementation and further development of this unique convention-based system in Europe, which now regulates many aspects of our societies. The lives of over 835 million European citizens have been influenced by all these conventions. At the 3rd Summit of Heads of State and Government, the Council of Europe member states in 2005 in Warsaw, the need to strengthen the effectiveness of the convention-based system was underlined, and measures to achieve this goal were stipulated. Many steps have been taken since then, and improvements have been made, such as a radical reform of the organization's activities, as well as a substantial reform of the functioning of the European Court of Human Rights and a review of conventions. But, Madam President, despite these reforms, big gaps remain between what member states and the organization want and what is performed by them, by us. Ratification of conventions is often delayed, preventing their entry into force. Implementations of conventions into domestic law is often slow and inaccurate, and domestic legal framework often dysfunctional. There are many reasons to be proud of all what has been achieved in 7 decades, but there is no reason to be complacent or to become ignorant. All what has been built in 7 decades could be teared down in far less time if we do not maintain and improve this unique convention system. Madam President, throughout Europe, democracy, the rule of law and human rights are under pressure and in dire need of revitalization. In order to help to counter these developments and to continue to do what is agreed in Article 1 of the Statute of the Council of Europe, the instruments and institutions of our organization need to be modernized and made more effective. The upcoming Summit of Heads of States and Government, which is now under preparation, should therefore, on the basis of a thorough evaluation, discuss, amongst others, how to improve and reinforce the convention-based system of the Council of Europe. I therefore invite this Assembly to call on the Committee of Ministers and the Secretary General of the Council of Europe to add the Council of Europe's convention-based system and its future to the agenda of the upcoming Summit of Heads of States and Government, and to adequately prepare in due time before the summit an in-depth evaluation of the effectiveness of the existing conventions and their monitoring mechanisms, and proposals to substantially strengthen the convention-based system. Secondly, an evaluation of the effectiveness of the assistance programs for the implementation of the standards set out in the conventions and assessments of improvements needed. Proposals, thirdly, on how to strengthen the effectiveness of the European Court of Human Rights. 4, proposal on how to broaden the scope of application of the European Social Charter to all members, and how to make the European Social Charter the main reference and common social rights benchmark to the European Union's pillar of social rights. 5th, a general evaluation of the relations between the Council of Europe and the other main European organizations. 6th, a consideration of the desirability of a European Union Council of Europe Memorandum of Understanding on the participation of the European Union in Council of Europe conventions. 7, a roadmap for European Union accession to the European Convention on Human Rights in line with the obligations formulated in the Lisbon Treaty. And 8, proposals on how to reach out to citizens and let them participate more in the decision-making of the Council of Europe. I also invite this Assembly to call to the Committee of Ministers and our 47 governments of the Member States to ensure the sufficient financial and human resources be allocated to the convention-based system and the intergovernmental activities in which all Member States should be able to participate on an equal footing. I propose to call to the Committee of Ministers to involve this Assembly in the preparatory activities of these evaluations and reconsiderations in the light of Article 15A of the Statute. And to involve the Assembly in an appropriate way in the upcoming Summit of Heads of States and Government. Madam President, the prospect of a 4th Summit of Heads of States and Government should be an opportunity for the Committee of Ministers to undertake proper reflection on our organization's future, bearing in mind that defending the Council of Europe's acquis depends on preserving this unique system of cooperation which enables all Member States to agree on common positions and cooperate on an equal footing for the benefit of all. In this context, I also invite the Assembly to call on the Council of Europe Member States to abstain from any voluntary actions which would result in weakening of the intergovernmental cooperation which has contributed so much during the past decades to effectively unite the European continent. May I, to conclude, Madam President, thank wholeheartedly the staff, Jan, Katerina, Valerie, Anna, and all the great experts who helped me to do this work, and without whom I could not have written this recommendation. I also thank our interlocutors in Spain and Ukraine and in Russia, and of course I thank our Deputy Secretary General and Mr. Jörg Palakovic for their great comments they have given to us. I hope, Madam President, that this Assembly will be able and willing to support this recommendation. I'm looking forward to the comments. Thank you very much.